The champagne bottle slipped. Just an inch. Not enough to drop it, but enough for 27-year-old Sophia Bennett to feel her heart skip as the crystal tray tilted dangerously in her hands. She steadied it quickly, professionally, the way she'd learned over 6 months of serving Manhattan's elite at Meridian Restaurant. The bottle alone cost $2,000. Dropping it would mean a lawsuit that would destroy what little financial stability she had left. But Alexander Wright noticed the slip. "Careful there, sweetheart," he said, not bothering to look up from his phone. His voice dripped with the kind of condescension that made the other men at the table, for business associates in suits nearly as expensive as his, shift uncomfortably in their leather chairs. "I know handling things worth more than your yearly salary can be intimidating. Maybe you should stick to serving tap water." The associates chuckled nervously. Nobody contradicted Alexander Wright. Not when his net worth exceeded the GDP of small countries. Sophia's jaw tightened. She wanted to tell him that 6 months ago she'd been making 3 times what he probably assumed she earned. That her yearly salary used to include tenure-track benefits and a research budget that would have made his eyes water. That she'd lectured at international conferences while he was probably buying his 3rd yacht. Instead, she set the tray down on the sideboard with deliberate precision, poured the Dom Perignon into 6 crystal flutes with hands that didn't shake, and began serving. The private dining room at Meridian was all dark wood paneling and soft amber lighting, designed to make billionaires feel like royalty. Expensive artwork lined the walls, originals, not prints. The carpet was so thick it absorbed sound. The chandelier overhead probably cost more than most people earned in a year. Alexander Wright certainly acted like he owned the place. His face had been on the cover of Forbes twice in the last year. "Tech visionary revolutionizes cybersecurity," the headline screamed. They should have called it what it really was: rich man gets richer while exploiting legal loopholes and crushing competition. Wright accepted his champagne without acknowledgement. Sophia might as well have been a robot for all the humanity he showed her. He turned to his associates, glanced at her one more time to confirm she was just the help, then switched to German. Rapid, confident German with a Berlin accent. The kind of linguistic arrogance that assumed nobody else in the room would understand a single word. Wright said in German that these waitresses keep getting more desperate. "Look at her," he told his colleagues. "Probably a failed actress or model trying to make rent in this overpriced city. She probably didn't even finish high school," he laughed. "These people never do. If you heard someone mock you in another language, what would you do? Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from." Sophia's hand froze mid-pour for just a fraction of a second. The German was flawless. High-class Berlin accent with just a hint of Hamburg influence, the kind of German you only learn from years of immersion or elite education. And it was absolutely venomous. He kept going. Started talking about her body in German. Making crude jokes about what desperate waitresses would do for a generous tip from men like him. Speculating about her education level, her background, her intelligence. Wondering aloud whether she could even read the menu she'd been serving from. His associates laughed uncomfortably, but nobody stopped him. Nobody ever stopped Alexander Wright. One of them, a younger man with kind eyes who'd looked apologetic earlier, glanced at Sophia with something like pity but said nothing. Silence was easier. Safer. Wright leaned back in his $6,000 Tom Ford suit, swirling his champagne like a king on a throne, completely at ease in his cruelty. He told his colleagues in German that the best part about these upscale restaurants was that the staff were too scared to complain. "They just smile and take it," he said with satisfaction. "They're grateful for whatever tips they get. They have to be. As if they have any choice in the matter. As if people like them deserve choices." Something inside Sophia snapped. It wasn't a loud snap. Not dramatic. Just a quiet breaking point that she'd been approaching for 6 months. 6 months of swallowing humiliation. 6 months of being invisible. 6 months of pretending that her destroyed career and shattered reputation didn't matter. 6 months ago, she would have walked away. Would have finished her shift, gone home, and cried in the shower where nobody could see. Would have swallowed the humiliation like she'd swallowed everything else when her world collapsed around her. The false accusations of inappropriate conduct with a student. The destroyed reputation built over a decade of work. The PhD in international relations and linguistics that meant nothing when powerful men decided you were a threat to their interests. 6 months ago, she'd been Dr. Sophia Bennett, the youngest tenured linguistics professor at Columbia University. Fluent in 7 languages. Published in prestigious journals. Invited to speak at conferences in Berlin, Paris, Tokyo. A future that looked like everything she'd worked for since she was 18 years old and decided she wanted to understand how language shaped power. Then one phone call from the dean had destroyed it all. One accusation from a student whose tuition was paid by a very generous donor who didn't appreciate Sophia's research into corporate corruption in academia. One closed-door meeting where she wasn't allowed to defend herself. One press release that painted her as a predator instead of the victim of a calculated takedown. But tonight Alexander Wright had made 2 fatal mistakes. First, he'd assumed she was just a waitress. Just another desperate woman trying to survive in an expensive city. Someone beneath his notice. Someone who didn't matter. Second, and far more foolishly, he'd assumed she wouldn't understand German. Sophia set down the champagne bottle with a soft clink that somehow cut through the room's ambient noise like a knife through silk. Every eye turned to her. She smoothed her black server's apron with deliberate care, lifted her chin with the confidence of someone who'd lectured to auditoriums of 200 students, and spoke. In flawless High German. With a Berlin accent so perfect it could have been mistaken for a native speaker. With the kind of academic precision that came from years of linguistic study. Mr. Wright, she said in German, her voice calm and controlled, I understood every single word you just said. The room went absolutely silent. One of Wright's associates dropped his fork. It clattered against his plate like a gunshot. Sophia continued in German, her voice carrying the weight of her academic authority. She told him that since they were discussing intelligence, she thought he should know that his planned merger with Technovate Solutions, the transaction he thought was still confidential, was already under investigation by the Department of Justice. The color drained from Wright's face like water from a broken glass. His champagne flute stopped midway to his lips, suspended in shock. She continued speaking in German, her words precise and devastating. She told him about his $200 million offer. The insider information he'd used to facilitate the deal. The falsified compliance reports his company had submitted. The shell corporations used to hide assets. All of it was detailed in a comprehensive report that was currently sitting on her mother's desk. Sophia paused, letting the information sink in. Watching Wright's face cycle through shock, confusion, and the beginning of fear. Oh, she said in German, her voice taking on a professor's lecturing tone, did I not properly introduce myself? Dr. Sophia Bennett. PhD in International Relations and Linguistics, Columbia University. Dissertation on Power Structures in Corporate Language. And yes, daughter of Senator Victoria Bennett. She let that land like a bomb. Still speaking in flawless German, she continued. You know Senator Bennett. The woman who chairs the Senate Committee on Corporate Fraud. The woman who's been investigating your company for the past 18 months. The woman you've been trying very hard to avoid. The silence in the room was suffocating. The kind of silence that happens right before someone's entire world collapses. Wright's associates had gone completely still. The kind one looked horrified. Another was slowly pushing his chair back from the table, clearly calculating his escape route. A third had his phone out, probably already texting his lawyer to get ahead of whatever was coming. But Sophia wasn't finished. Not even close. 6 months of stored rage had found its target. She told Wright in German, her voice dropping to just above a whisper, that just so he knew, last month when he tried to hand her mother $500,000 in cash, in a Louis Vuitton briefcase, in a parking garage in Georgetown. They had recorded everything. She leaned forward slightly, forcing everyone in the room to strain to hear her next words. "We have it all on video," she said in German. "Audio and visual. 4 different camera angles. With timestamps. With your face clearly visible. With your voice clearly recorded. With the serial numbers on every bill documented." Alexander Wright's face had progressed from pale to a sickly gray-green. His jaw worked soundlessly. One of his associates was already standing, grabbing his coat, mumbling something about an early meeting. Wright tried to speak. His mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. Only a strangled sound emerged. Sophia spoke again in German, her words clinical and precise. She told him he'd thought a waitress was too stupid to understand him. He'd thought she would just smile and endure his insults like all the other service workers he'd abused over the years. That was his first mistake. She switched to English, her voice carrying across the suffocating room. "Your second mistake was trying to bribe a United States senator. Your third mistake was doing it while under active federal surveillance. Your fourth mistake was thinking you were smarter than everyone else in the room." Wright finally found his voice, though it came out strangled and desperate. You can't prove any of this is just." "I don't have to prove anything," Sophia interrupted smoothly, her professor's voice slicing through his stammering. "The FBI already has the evidence. They've been building a RICO case for 18 months. Securities fraud. Bribery. Wire fraud. Market manipulation. Tax evasion. My mother was just waiting for you to make one more move. One more attempt to corrupt the process. One more mistake. Subscribe now because what happens next will blow your mind. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment below." She picked up the champagne bottle, examined the label with the kind of academic interest she used to reserve for rare manuscripts. $2,000 for a bottle of Dom Perignon. Such expensive tastes for someone whose company is about to be indicted on 14 federal charges. 15 if you count the bribery attempt tonight. Wright stood abruptly. His chair scraped violently against the hardwood floor. His hands shook as he fumbled for his phone. For a moment, Sophia thought he might call his lawyer. He should have. But the expression on his face, cold calculation rapidly replacing the shock, told her something far worse was happening. He dialed a number with trembling fingers. Someone answered on the first ring. Wright's eyes never left Sophia's face as he spoke into the phone, his voice low and dangerous. "We have a problem. The senator's daughter just recognized me. She knows about Georgetown. She knows about Technovate. She knows everything." A pause. "Yes. The waitress." Another pause, his expression hardening into something that made Sophia's blood run cold. "I don't care what it costs. I don't care what you have to do. Handle it. Tonight." He ended the call. Slipped the phone back into his pocket with deliberate slowness. When he smiled, it was the kind of smile that belonged in nightmares. "Dr. Bennett," he said, his voice soft but laced with venom that could have dissolved steel. "You just made the biggest mistake of your very short life." Sophia's shift ended at 11:30, but Marcus Chin didn't let her leave the restaurant until nearly midnight. The moment Wright and his associates had stormed out of the private dining room, Marcus had appeared at her elbow. His usual warm smile was gone, replaced by something harder. More calculating. The fluorescent lights overhead flickered intermittently, casting shadows that made every support pillar look like a potential hiding place. Her sensible black work flats echoed with each step. She'd parked on level 3 tonight, toward the back where there were fewer cars and supposedly fewer cameras. Marcus had told her that was wrong. He had cameras everywhere. Had been watching. Had been protecting her without her knowledge. But clearly his protection had limits. Sophia's silver Honda Civic sat exactly where she'd left it that morning when her biggest concern had been getting to her shift on time. Now it looked like something from a crime scene. The driver's side window was shattered. Safety glass glittered across the concrete like scattered diamonds under the harsh fluorescent lights. Both side mirrors had been snapped off completely, lying on the ground like broken wings. All 4 tires were slashed, rubber hanging in strips, air long gone. And across the hood, someone had keyed a message in letters 6 inches tall, scratched deep enough to expose bare metal: "Shut your mouth." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. Her hand started shaking so violently she nearly dropped her phone. A white envelope was tucked under the windshield wiper. Pristine. Expensive looking. Completely out of place next to the destruction. She pulled it out with trembling fingers and opened it. The message inside was printed on heavy cardstock, the kind used for wedding invitations or funeral announcements. The font looked like something from a ransom note in a movie, each letter cut from different typefaces and reassembled. "You had your chance to stay quiet, Dr. Bennett. Now you'll learn what happens to people who don't know their place. We're watching. We're always watching. This is your only warning. Would you go to the police immediately, or would you try to handle it yourself? Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Don't touch anything else." Sophia spun around so fast she nearly lost her balance. Marcus Chen stood 15 feet away, his expensive dress shoes making no sound on the concrete. He wasn't wearing his restaurant owner smile anymore. This was a different person entirely, someone harder, more dangerous, like he'd lived other lives before opening an upscale Manhattan restaurant. "How long have you been standing there?" Sophia demanded, her voice sharper than she intended, adrenaline making her aggressive. "Long enough." Marcus walked closer, his phone already out, taking pictures of the damage from multiple angles. Professional. Methodical. Like he'd done this before. "Security footage will show who did this. I have 12 cameras on this level alone. You told me there were fewer cameras back here." "I lied." Marcus met her eyes without apology. "I have cameras covering every inch of this garage because I knew something like this might happen eventually. Your mother warned me it would." Sophia felt like the ground was shifting beneath her feet. "What else did my mother tell you?" Marcus pocketed his phone and looked at her with an expression that mixed pity with respect. "Everything. Dr. Sophia Bennett, daughter of Senator Victoria Bennett. Former youngest tenured professor at Columbia University. Destroyed by false sexual harassment accusations 6 months ago because your research on corporate corruption in academic funding made some very wealthy donors uncomfortable." The parking garage suddenly felt smaller. More claustrophobic. The air tasted stale. "My mother arranged all of this. She asked me to protect you," Marcus said quietly. "We went to Georgetown Law together, class of 1998. Stayed friends over the years. When you needed to disappear, to rebuild somewhere nobody would look for a disgraced academic, she called in a favor." Sophia felt betrayed and relieved in equal measure. "So for 6 months I've been living a lie." "For 6 months you've been staying alive," Marcus corrected. "The people who destroyed your career don't stop, Sophia. They keep coming. They keep pushing. They silence anyone who threatens their interests. Your mother knew that. She knew you needed to vanish completely while she built her case." "What case? What are you talking about?" Marcus pulled out his phone again, scrolled through documents, then showed her the screen. It was a tax filing. A charitable donation receipt. Alexander Wright's name at the top. $12 million donated to Columbia University. The date was 3 months before Sophia's accusations surfaced. "He bought your destruction," Marcus said flatly. "Wright sits on Columbia's board of trustees. Has for 5 years. Your research paper about tech billionaires manipulating academic research was about to be published. It would have exposed him. Destroyed his reputation. Cost him billions in market value. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. The sudden accusation from a student she'd never been alone with. The dean who refused to hear her defense. The media circus that appeared overnight. The donors who demanded her immediate termination. The university that threw her away like garbage to protect their funding. Wright had orchestrated all of it. He knew who I was tonight, Sophia whispered. When I revealed my identity at the restaurant. He wasn't surprised about my mother being a senator. He was surprised I was alive. Working in Manhattan. He thought he'd already gotten rid of me permanently. And now you've exposed yourself, Marcus said, gesturing at the destroyed car. He knows you're here. Knows you're a witness to the bribery attempt. Knows you have information. You're not just inconvenient anymore. You're dangerous. Sophia pulled out her phone to call her mother. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same automated message. She sent a text, "Mom, call me immediately. Emergency." The message showed as delivered but not read. She tried her mother's office in Washington. The phone rang 4 times before someone picked up. Senator Bennett's office, this is Julie. Julie, it's Sophia. I need to speak to my mother right now. It's urgent. Oh, Dr. Bennett. Julie's voice dropped to a whisper, like she was worried about being overheard. She's not here. She left about 45 minutes ago for an emergency meeting. She seemed really upset. She was on the phone yelling at someone before she walked out. Sophia's stomach dropped. Meeting with who? She didn't say exactly, but I overheard part of her phone conversation. She kept saying a name. Wright. Alexander Wright. She said something about ending this tonight. About not letting him threaten her daughter anymore. The parking garage seemed to tilt. Julie, where did she go? She didn't tell me the location, but she had Tom drive her. You know, her regular security driver. I can probably pull the destination from the motor pool logs. Give me 1 second. Sophia waited, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Marcus was watching her, his expression growing more concerned. Okay, got it, Julie said. Motor pool log says Tom drove Senator Bennett to Wright Tower on Park Avenue. The executive level entrance. Dr. Bennett, should I call building security? Should I? Subscribe now to see what happens when a mother walks into a trap to protect her daughter. Where are you watching from? Comment below. Sophia was already running toward the parking garage exit. Marcus shouted behind her to wait, to call the police, to not do anything stupid. But all Sophia could think about was Wright's cold smile. His phone call. Handle it. Tonight. She'd thought he meant her. Thought his threat was about destroying her career again. Maybe hurting her physically. But he hadn't been talking about Sophia at all. He'd been talking about her mother. Senator Victoria Bennett had gone to Wright Tower alone, at night, to confront a man who'd just been exposed and had everything to lose. And Sophia had put her there. Wright Tower pierced the Manhattan skyline like a steel dagger, 73 floors of glass, chrome, and corporate arrogance. Sophia burst through the revolving doors at 12:47 in the morning, still wearing her server's uniform with her name tag hastily ripped off. Her heart hammered so hard she could feel it pulsing in her temples. The lobby was all polished marble and mirrors, designed to make visitors feel insignificant. 2 security guards in expensive suits flanked the elevator banks, and the nearest one was already moving toward her with his hand raised. Ma'am, the building is closed to visitors after. Sophia didn't slow down. She switched to rapid German, projecting the confidence of someone who belonged. Emergency translation services for the executive level. Alexander Wright's international contracts meeting. I was called in 30 minutes ago. She kept walking, her posture straight, her stride purposeful. Years of lecturing had taught her that confidence was 90% of authority. The other 10% was knowing exactly which pressure points to hit. The guard hesitated. That single second of uncertainty was all she needed. Sophia pulled out her expired Columbia University faculty ID, still impressive with its official seal and Dr. Sophia Bennett, Department of Linguistics, title. If Mr. Wright's $7 million contract with Munich-based investors is delayed because security didn't receive proper notification, I'm certain he'll understand completely. The sarcasm in her voice made the guard flinch. Nobody wanted to be responsible for costing Alexander Wright money. One moment. He spoke into his radio in German, clearly thinking she wouldn't understand. He was confirming there was indeed a meeting on the executive level. Asking if they'd requested a translator. The response was garbled by static, but Sophia caught the key word, Senatorin, senator. Her mother was up there. Right now. Alone with Wright. If you could talk your way into danger to save someone you love, would you? Drop a comment, where are you watching from? The interpreter was supposed to arrive 45 minutes ago, Sophia lied smoothly in German, checking her watch with theatrical impatience. I'm the replacement. Would you prefer to explain to Mr. Wright why his Munich investors are walking out because of your security protocols, or shall we avoid that conversation entirely? The guard made a decision. He gestured toward the elevators, handed her a visitor badge. Executive level is 72. Use elevator bank C. Sophia clipped the badge to her black shirt and walked toward the elevators, her legs steadier than they had any right to be. The elevator ride lasted 60 seconds, 60 seconds of watching floor numbers climb while imagining every terrible scenario. Wright was dangerous. Cornered. He'd already destroyed her career with casual efficiency. What would he do to a senator who had him trapped? The 72nd floor was eerily quiet when the elevator doors opened. Thick carpet absorbed all sound. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed Manhattan spread below like a glittering circuit board. The executive suite screamed money. Original Rothko paintings on the walls, furniture that cost more than cars, the subtle scent of leather and expensive cologne hanging in the recycled air. Sophia moved quietly down the hallway toward voices drifting from the north end of the floor. A glass-walled conference room glowed ahead, and through the transparent walls, she could see them. Her mother, Senator Victoria Bennett, sat at a long mahogany table wearing her Navy power suit, the one she wore for hostile committee hearings. Her silver hair was pulled back in her signature bun. Her posture was ramrod straight, shoulders back, chin up. Across from her sat Alexander Wright, leaning back in his leather chair with that same arrogant smile he'd worn at the restaurant. But what made Sophia's blood run cold was the equipment on the table. Professional cameras on tripods. Multiple microphones. A laptop showing recording software with red lights indicating active capture. Wright was filming this conversation. Sophia pressed herself against the wall just outside the conference room, hidden from view by the angle but close enough to hear every word through the glass. Her mother's voice was steady but laced with fury. I have the evidence, Alexander. Bank statements showing the bribes. Emails detailing the coordination. Audio recordings of you offering cash in exchange for dropping the investigation. 27 counts of bribery. 12 of securities fraud. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. You're finished. Wright's laugh was low and poisonous. Evidence. Senator Bennett, I'm disappointed. You actually fell for it. Sophia watched her mother's expression flicker, just for a fraction of a second, with confusion. The briefcase, Wright said, his voice dripping with satisfaction. $500,000 in cash. Georgetown parking garage. You thought you were being clever, didn't you? Wearing a wire. Having FBI surveillance teams watching. Recording everything for your big takedown. He leaned forward, his smile widening like a predator's. But here's what you didn't know. That money wasn't mine. Those serial numbers trace back to a Colombian drug cartel's money laundering operation. The FBI has been tracking those specific bills for 8 months. And you, Senator, were recorded accepting them. Taking possession. Putting them in your vehicle. The silence was deafening. That's impossible, Victoria said, but her voice had lost its certainty. I never took that money. I handed the briefcase directly to Agent Morrison. It went straight into evidence. Oh, I know you did. Wright pulled out a tablet, tapped the screen, turned it toward her. But my edited footage shows something very different. Shows you counting the money. Smiling. Closing the briefcase. Loading it into your personal car. Driving away. He paused, letting it sink in. Deepfake technology has gotten remarkably good, hasn't it? With enough source footage, and Senator, you're on C-SPAN constantly, I can make you do or say anything. My version shows you taking cartel money while investigating corporate fraud. The irony will destroy you. Victoria's hands clenched on the table. You're bluffing. Am I? Wright swiped the tablet, showed her something else. 3 journalists have copies. Washington Post. New York Times. Wall Street Journal. All waiting for my signal. 1 phone call, and by tomorrow morning, you'll be the corrupt politician who took drug money while pretending to fight corruption. Your investigation dies. Your career dies. Your legacy becomes nothing but a cautionary tale about hypocrisy. Sophia couldn't breathe. This was a trap. A meticulously constructed trap, and her mother had walked straight into it. What do you want? Victoria asked, her voice tight. End the investigation. Public announcement that your committee found no wrongdoing. Issue a formal apology for the harassment my company has endured. Then retire from the Senate, citing health concerns. Wright's voice was almost gentle. Almost kind. Do that, and this footage never sees daylight. Your reputation stays intact. Your daughter stays safe. The mention of Sophia made Victoria's jaw clench. And if I refuse? Then I release the footage. You're indicted. Impeached. Imprisoned. Your daughter loses her mother to a federal prison. Everything you've built over 30 years crumbles into dust. He paused. And Sophia? Well, she's already had 1 career destroyed. It would be tragic if accidents kept happening. If she could never work anywhere. If every opportunity mysteriously vanished. If she ended up. Subscribe now, because what happens next will change everything. Where are you watching from? Comment below. Don't you dare threaten my daughter, Victoria said, her voice deadly quiet. Then make the smart choice, Wright said. You have until 9 tomorrow morning. After that, I make the calls, and both your lives are over. Victoria stood slowly, her hands trembling slightly as she reached for her purse. I need time to consider. Of course. Wright stood, buttoning his suit jacket. Take all the time you need. All 8 hours of it. As her mother walked toward the door, Sophia pressed herself flatter against the wall. She needed to move. Needed to do something. But what? Then she saw it. On a side table near the conference room entrance. A security access card lying next to a half-empty coffee mug. The card had a name, Elena Rodriguez, Director of Security. And beside it, a yellow sticky note with neat handwriting, Server Room B3, Backup Files 001089. Everything. Someone had left this here. Recently. Deliberately. Sophia grabbed both items, sliding them into her pocket just as the conference room door opened. Her mother walked out, face pale, not seeing Sophia hidden in the shadows. Wright followed, phone already to his ear, speaking in German. The senator is broken. By morning, everything will be over. The investigation dies with her career. As he headed toward his private office, Sophia looked at the security card in her hand. Elena Rodriguez. Whoever she was, she'd left a breadcrumb trail. Server room B3. Backup files. Evidence. Maybe the truth. Sophia had 10 minutes, maybe less, before someone realized she didn't belong here. She looked at the elevator that would take her to her mother. To safety. Then she looked at the emergency stairwell sign pointing down. Down to the basement. Down to the server room. Down to whatever Elena Rodriguez wanted her to find. Sophia pushed open the stairwell door and started running. The stairwell smelled like concrete and desperation. Sophia took the stairs 2 at a time, her work flat slapping against metal steps that echoed in the narrow space. 72 floors down to basement level 3. Her legs would be screaming by the time she reached the bottom, but the elevators would log her movement. Would alert security. Would get her caught before she found whatever Elena Rodriguez wanted her to see. Floor 68. Her lungs already burning. Floor 63. Leg muscles starting to protest. Floor 57. She had to slow down or risk falling. The security card felt like it was burning a hole in her pocket. Elena Rodriguez, Director of Security. Why would Wright's own security director leave evidence for a stranger to find? Unless she wasn't a stranger. Unless Elena knew exactly who Sophia was. Floor 49. Sweat dripping down her back despite the air conditioning. The stairwell door at basement level 3 was reinforced steel with a card reader beside it. Sophia pressed Elena's card against the sensor. The light turned green. The lock clicked open. The basement was a maze of humming servers and blinking lights. Rows of metal racks stretched into darkness. The air was cold, kept that way to prevent the equipment from overheating. Sophia's breath came out in visible puffs as she moved between the server towers, looking for some indication of where to go. Then she saw her. A woman in her 40s with dark hair pulled into a ponytail, wearing a security uniform and holding a tablet. She was standing beside a server rack labeled B3 Archive with a USB drive in her hand. "You must be Sophia," the woman said calmly, as if midnight break-ins were routine. "I'm Elena Rodriguez. We don't have much time." "How did you know I'd come?" "Because I knew Wright would threaten your mother. And I knew you wouldn't walk away." Elena plugged the USB drive into the server. "I've been waiting for someone brave enough or stupid enough to challenge him. Looks like you're both. If someone offered you evidence that could destroy a billionaire, would you trust them? Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from." Sophia moved closer, watching the tablet screen fill with file names. Hundreds of them. Thousands. What is all this? 3 years of crimes, Elena said, her voice bitter. Wright hired me as director of security 2 years ago. Paid me a fortune to keep his secrets. But 6 months ago, I discovered he wasn't just committing corporate fraud. He was destroying people. Fabricating evidence. Blackmailing politicians. Ruining careers for sport. She pulled up a file. It showed a professor at MIT. Dr. Marcus Williams. Researched algorithmic bias in Wright's cybersecurity software. Found evidence it discriminated against minorities. Wright had him fired for fabricated plagiarism. Williams committed suicide 3 months later. Another file. Dr. Jennifer Park. Stanford. Investigated Wright's offshore tax havens. He planted child pornography on her computer. She's serving 15 years. File after file. Professor after professor. Journalist after journalist. Each one who'd gotten too close to the truth. Each one systematically destroyed. There are 47 names on this list, Elena said. Your name is number 48. Your mother would have been 49. Sophia felt sick. Why are you showing me this? Because Wright fired me yesterday when I asked too many questions about the fake footage of your mother. He knows I know too much. He's already sent people after me. I have maybe 24 hours before I disappear permanently. Elena's hands shook as she worked. But I kept backup copies of everything. Every crime. Every victim. Every piece of evidence. The download bar on her tablet was moving slowly. 15% complete. We need to go faster, Sophia said, glancing at the door. The files are encrypted and massive. This is as fast as it goes. Elena pulled up another screen. While we wait, you should see this. It was surveillance footage from the Georgetown parking garage. But not the edited version Wright had shown Victoria. This was the raw feed from 4 different angles. It showed Wright handing Victoria the briefcase. Showed her immediately calling FBI agent Morrison. Showed her handing it directly to federal agents without ever opening it. This proves my mother never took the money, Sophia whispered. This proves Wright fabricated everything. And I have the original files he used to create the deepfakes. The source code. The metadata. Everything needed to prove it's fake. The download bar hit 60%. That's when the alarm started blaring. Red lights flashed throughout the server room. A computerized voice announced, "Unauthorized access detected. Security responding to basement level 3. Lockdown initiated." Elena's face went pale. He knows we're here. How long until that download finishes? 3 minutes. Maybe 4. Heavy footsteps echoed in the stairwell. Multiple sets. Getting closer. Subscribe now to see if Sophia escapes with the evidence that could destroy Wright. Where are you watching from? Comment below. Sophia looked at the server room's only exit, the door they'd entered through. The door the security team was currently approaching. They were trapped. Is there another way out? She asked urgently. The ventilation shaft. Elena pointed to a grate near the ceiling. It leads to the parking garage. But we'd have to climb through 40 feet of ductwork. Can you make it with the tablet? If the download finishes first. The footsteps were at the door now. Someone was swiping a card. The lock was clicking. 85% complete. Come on, Sophia muttered, watching the bar crawl forward with agonizing slowness. 90%. The doors started opening. 95%. Elena grabbed Sophia's arm. When I say run, you run. Don't wait for me. Get that evidence to the FBI. Promise me. I'm not leaving you. Promise me. 99%. The door swung fully open. 4 security guards burst in, weapons drawn. 100%. Download complete. Elena yanked the USB drive from the server and threw it to Sophia. Run. Sophia caught it, stumbled backward. The guards were shouting. Elena stepped between them and Sophia, her hands raised. Go. Elena screamed. Sophia ran toward the ventilation shaft as gunfire erupted behind her. Not real bullets, taser rounds, but the sound was deafening in the enclosed space. She jumped, grabbed the grate, pulled herself up into the metal duct with strength she didn't know she had. Behind her, she heard Elena cry out. Heard bodies hitting the floor. Heard the guards shouting into radios. Subject escaping through ventilation. Basement 3 heading toward parking structure. Seal all exits. Sophia crawled through the darkness, the USB drive clutched in her hand, Elena's sacrifice burning in her mind. She had the evidence. Everything needed to destroy Wright and save her mother. But Wright's security team was waiting at the other end. And she had nowhere left to run. The ventilation shaft was barely wide enough for Sophia's shoulders. She crawled through absolute darkness on her hands and knees, metal walls pressing in from all sides like a coffin. The air was stale and hot despite the building's air conditioning. Her hands scraped against rough metal edges with every movement, leaving her palms raw and bleeding. Every few feet, she had to navigate around junction points where ducts branched off in different directions, forcing her to make split-second decisions about which way led to freedom and which led to dead ends. Behind her, voices echoed through the metal tunnels, security guards coordinating her capture through radios that made their words sound distorted and monstrous. She's heading toward parking level 2. Cut her off at the west exit. All garage doors sealed. She's trapped. Just a matter of time. Wright wants her alive. He wants to handle this personally. That last part made Sophia's blood run cold. She crawled faster, ignoring the pain in her knees, ignoring the claustrophobia threatening to overwhelm her. The USB drive was still clutched in her bleeding right hand. 3 years of evidence. 47 destroyed lives. Proof of Wright's fabricated evidence against her mother. Elena Rodriguez had sacrificed herself, probably her life, for this tiny piece of plastic. Sophia wasn't going to let it be for nothing. The duct opened suddenly and without warning. Sophia tumbled out into open space, landing hard on concrete that knocked the wind from her lungs. She lay there gasping, stars exploding behind her eyes from the impact. When her vision cleared, she realized she was in a parking garage bathed in red emergency lighting that made everything look like a crime scene. The exit ramps had heavy metal barriers lowered across them. The kind designed to stop car thieves from ramming through, but equally effective at trapping people. The regular exits were sealed with security doors. Red lights blinked above every access point. The entire structure was on lockdown. Sophia forced herself to stand, her ribs screaming in protest from the fall. She looked around desperately for any way out. The garage was 3 levels of concrete pillars and parked luxury vehicles. Wright's employees clearly made excellent money. Every car was a Tesla or BMW or Mercedes. Not a single vehicle under $60,000. She could hear footsteps echoing from multiple stairwells, security teams converging on her position from different angles. She was trapped. Cornered. Out of options. Then her phone vibrated in her pocket. A text from an unknown number, blue Tesla Model S, Section C, 7. Keys under driver's mat. Fully charged. Go. Now. Trust me. E.R. Elena Rodriguez. Even captured, probably hurt, she was still helping. Still fighting. If a stranger told you to steal a car to escape, would you trust them? Drop a comment, where are you watching from? Sophia didn't hesitate. She ran toward Section C, 7, weaving between parked cars, keeping low to avoid being spotted. The blue Tesla was exactly where the text indicated, a Model S with dark-tinted windows and custom wheels. She yanked open the driver's door, found the key card exactly where Elena had said, and threw herself into the leather seat. The car came alive silently. No engine roar. No mechanical noise. Just a soft electronic hum that felt almost peaceful in the chaos. She looked at the sealed exit ramp ahead. The metal barrier was rated to stop a semi-truck traveling at highway speed. No way to drive through it. But directly beside the vehicle ramp was a pedestrian door, the kind employees used when walking to their cars. It had a card reader. Sophia still had Elena's security card. An insane idea formed in her mind. The kind of idea that only made sense when all rational options had been exhausted. She put the Tesla in drive, positioned it directly in front of the pedestrian door at an angle, and wedged a water bottle she found in the cup holder against the accelerator. The car surged forward with terrifying electric acceleration. At the last second, Sophia dove out the driver's side door, rolling across the concrete as the 2-ton vehicle smashed through the pedestrian door in an explosion of metal, glass, and alarm systems. The car's theft alarm shrieked into the night. Security guards were shouting, their voices overlapping. But Sophia was already scrambling to her feet and running through the destroyed doorway into the cool night air of Manhattan. She emerged onto Park Avenue at 1:17 in the morning, her server uniform torn and blood-stained, looking like a survivor of some catastrophe. A few taxis cruised past, their drivers not giving her a second glance, just another weird night in New York City. Late-night delivery trucks rumbled by. But mostly the streets were empty, that strange quiet that settles over even Manhattan in the dead hours. Sophia ran south, keeping to the shadows between streetlights, her server uniform making her nearly invisible in the darkness. 2 blocks away, breathing hard and feeling like her lungs might explode, she ducked into an all-night bodega. The clerk, a tired-looking man in his 50s, barely looked up from his phone where he was watching some telenovela with the volume low. Sophia went straight to the bathroom in the back, locked the flimsy door, and finally allowed herself to stop moving. To breathe. To process what had just happened. Her hands were shaking so violently she could barely pull out her phone. She texted her mother, "I have the evidence. Elena Rodriguez gave me everything. Wright fabricated all of it. Don't sign anything. Don't agree to anything. Don't do anything until you hear from me. I'm safe." No response. Her mother's phone was probably still powered off after the confrontation with Wright. She called the one person she could trust right now. Marcus Chen answered on the first ring, his voice tight with worry. "Sophia? Where the hell are you? I've been trying to reach you for over an hour. Your mother called me looking for you. The police are looking for you. What happened?" "I'm okay," Sophia said, her voice shaking. "Marcus, I need you to contact FBI agent Morrison immediately. Tell him I have evidence in the right case. 3 years of documented crimes. Tell him Wright has been systematically destroying people for—" "Sophia, stop," Marcus interrupted. "Your mother already called the FBI. Wright's been arrested. It happened 30 minutes ago." Sophia's world stopped spinning. Everything went silent except for the buzzing fluorescent light above her head. "What did you say?" "Alexander Wright is in federal custody. Your mother walked out of Wright Tower and went straight to an FBI field office in Manhattan. She had the original briefcase from Georgetown, the one Wright tried to use against her. Turns out she never trusted him from the beginning. She had her own recording devices running during their meeting. Body camera. Audio backup. Everything. She has him on tape trying to blackmail a United States senator. Subscribe now because this story is about to take an unexpected turn. Where are you watching from? Comment below." Sophia slid down the bathroom wall, her legs finally giving out completely. She sat on the grimy tile floor, tears streaming down her face. "He's really arrested. It's really over. Federal building downtown. They're charging him with attempted bribery of a federal official, blackmail, obstruction of justice, wire fraud. His company's board of directors held an emergency meeting an hour ago and voted unanimously to remove him as CEO. His personal and corporate assets are frozen pending investigation. Sophia, it's over. You won. Your mother won. But it wasn't over." Sophia looked at the USB drive in her bloody hand. "Marcus, the evidence I have goes way beyond my mother and me. Elena showed me everything. 47 people destroyed over 3 years. Professors, journalists, investigators. Wright fabricated evidence against all of them. Planted crimes. Ruined lives. Some of them are in prison. Some of them are dead." Marcus was silent for a long moment. "Then you need to get that drive to the FBI immediately, Sophia. Those people deserve justice too." "Where are you exactly?" Sophia told him the intersection. Marcus promised to pick her up in 10 minutes and take her directly to the FBI field office. She hung up and finally let herself cry properly, for Elena, for all the victims Wright had destroyed, for the 6 months of her life she'd lost hiding in plain sight. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from an unknown number. But this time, the message made her blood freeze. You think arresting me stops this? You think I don't have insurance policies? Friends in very high places? People who owe me favors? People who don't believe in leaving witnesses alive to testify? Enjoy your victory, Dr. Bennett. It'll be your last. Ah. Alexander Wright was in federal custody. How was he sending texts? Then she understood with sickening clarity. He had accomplices. Partners outside his company. People who were still free. People who do anything to protect their own involvement. And they knew exactly where she'd be heading next. The bodega's front door chimed. Heavy footsteps entered. Too deliberate. Too purposeful. The bathroom door handle rattled. Sophia looked at the tiny window above the toilet. 3 stories up. No fire escape visible. She was trapped again. And this time, Marcus and the FBI weren't close enough to save her. The bathroom door handle stopped rattling. Sophia pressed herself against the far wall, the USB drive clutched so tightly in her fist that the edges cut into her palm. She could hear breathing on the other side of the door. Heavy. Deliberate. Whoever was out there wasn't in a hurry. They knew she had nowhere to go. Then a woman's voice, muffled through the wood. Dr. Bennett, my name is Special Agent Rebecca Torres, FBI. I'm here to escort you to safety. Marcus Chen called us 20 minutes ago about evidence in the Wright case. Sophia didn't move. Wright's text had warned her about people in high places. How did she know this wasn't one of his accomplices with a fake badge? I'm going to slide my credentials under the door, the voice continued. You can verify them with the New York field office. The number is on the back. A leather wallet appeared beneath the door gap. Sophia picked it up with shaking hands. FBI shield. Photo ID. Special Agent Rebecca Torres. It looked legitimate, but Sophia had seen enough of Wright's fabrications to know anything could be faked. She called the number on the back of the ID. A man answered immediately. FBI New York Field Office. I need to verify the identity of an agent, Sophia said quietly. Special Agent Rebecca Torres. One moment. A pause. Keyboard clicks. Agent Torres is currently on assignment escorting a witness in the Wright investigation. Can I ask who's calling? The witness, Sophia said, and hung up. She unlocked the bathroom door. Agent Torres stood in a narrow hallway, mid-30s, athletic build, wearing a dark suit with a visible weapon holstered at her hip. 2 more agents flanked her, both scanning the bodega's entrance and windows. Dr. Bennett, we need to move now, Torres said. Marcus Chen told us about the text you received. Wright's attorney made a phone call from the holding cell before we could stop him. We believe he activated a contingency plan. Contingency for what? Eliminating evidence. And witnesses. Would you trust federal agents you just met with your life? Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Torres led Sophia out through the bodega's back door into an alley where 2 black SUVs waited with engines running. They moved with military precision, Torres in front, 2 agents flanking, one bringing up the rear. Sophia was placed in the middle vehicle's back seat with Torres beside her. The USB drive, Torres said. I need to secure it as evidence. Sophia handed it over reluctantly. 3 years of crimes. Elena's sacrifice. It felt wrong to let it out of her sight. We're taking you directly to the field office, Torres explained as they pulled into traffic. Your mother is already there with Agent Morrison. We have Wright in custody, but he's not cooperating. Won't answer questions without his attorney. However, Elena Rodriguez is. Sophia's head snapped up. Elena's alive. Tossed and roughed up, but alive. She's been talking for the past hour. Giving us names. Locations. Bank accounts. She wants full immunity in exchange for testimony. Torres looked at Sophia. She said to tell you she's sorry she couldn't warn you sooner. Wright had her under surveillance for weeks. The SUV turned onto the FDR Drive, heading downtown. Manhattan's lights blurred past the tinted windows. Sophia finally let herself believe it might actually be over. Then the lead vehicle exploded. The blast wave hit their SUV like a physical force, sending it spinning across 3 lanes of traffic. Sophia's head cracked against the window. Glass shattered. The world became a chaos of screeching metal and screaming people. When the vehicle stopped spinning, Sophia's ears were ringing. Blood dripped from a cut above her eye. Agent Torres was shouting into her radio, weapon drawn, scanning for threats. The lead SUV was engulfed in flames. 2 agents had been inside. Secondary team compromised, Torres was saying into her radio. We're under attack. Requesting immediate backup at. Another explosion. This one closer. The rear SUV. They weren't accidents. Someone was hunting them with military-grade weapons. Subscribe now, because the next 60 seconds will determine who lives and who dies. Where are you watching from? Comment below. Out. Now. Torres yanked Sophia from the vehicle. They ran toward the guardrail overlooking the East River. Behind them, gunfire erupted. Not handguns. Something bigger. Automatic weapons. Sophia looked over the guardrail. 20-foot drop to dark water below. Certain injury. Possible death. Torres didn't hesitate. She grabbed Sophia's hand. Jump or die. Your choice. They jumped. The water hit like concrete. Cold and black and utterly disorienting. Sophia kicked toward what she hoped was the surface, her lungs burning, her waterlogged clothes dragging her down. When she finally broke through, gasping and choking, she saw the highway above engulfed in chaos. Fires burning. Police sirens approaching. Agent Torres surfaced beside her, already swimming toward a dock 50 yards away. Who has that kind of firepower? Sophia gasped, treading water. Torres's face was grim. Someone who knew our exact route. Someone with access to federal communications. Someone inside the bureau. Wright's reach went deeper than anyone had imagined. And now, Sophia was alone in the East River with an FBI agent she'd met 20 minutes ago, watching the only evidence that could save her mother burn on a highway above them. The USB drive was gone. Elena was in custody and could be silenced. Wright had people everywhere. And Sophia had just run out of places to hide. 6 months later, Sophia stood outside the federal courthouse in Lower Manhattan, watching news vans jostle for position. The trial had lasted 8 weeks. 47 victims testified. Elena Rodriguez, granted immunity, had spent 3 days on the stand detailing every crime. The USB drive, recovered from Agent Torres's waterproof phone case where she transferred it before the attack, had been admitted as evidence. All of it. 3 years of systematic destruction. Alexander Wright's attorney had tried everything. Claimed entrapment. Attacked Elena's credibility. Suggested the files were fabricated. But the evidence was overwhelming. Bank records matched. Metadata was authenticated. Victims' testimonies corroborated every detail. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Now, Sophia waited for the verdict alongside her mother, who'd been cleared of all accusations within days of Wright's arrest. The deepfake video had been exposed as fraud. Senator Bennett's investigation had expanded to include not just Wright, but his entire network of accomplices. 13 people had been arrested in the aftermath, including the FBI mole who betrayed their convoy location. 2 federal judges. 3 corporate executives. A district attorney. All of them had taken Wright's money to look the other way or actively assist in destroying his enemies. Marcus Chen stood beside Sophia, having closed Meridian for the day to be here. Elena Rodriguez was there too, her arms still in a sling from the night in the server room, her security career over but her conscience finally clear. Jury's returning, someone shouted. Would you stand in court to watch your abuser face justice? Tell us where you're watching from in the comments. Inside the courtroom, everyone rose as the jury filed in. Sophia searched their faces for any hint of what was coming. The forewoman, a middle-aged black woman who'd paid close attention throughout the trial, held a folded piece of paper. Has the jury reached a verdict? Judge Martinez asked. We have, Your Honor. On the charge of bribery of a federal official, how do you find the defendant? Guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to obstruct justice? Guilty. Charge after charge. Guilty. 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 23 counts total. Wright's face remained expressionless, but Sophia saw his hands clench on the defense table. His billion-dollar empire had crumbled. His company had filed for bankruptcy. His so-called friends had disappeared the moment he became radioactive. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. Judge Martinez showed no mercy. Mr. Wright, you systematically destroyed lives for profit and ego. You perverted justice. You corrupted institutions meant to protect the innocent. I sentence you to 35 years in federal prison without possibility of parole. The courtroom erupted. Victims wept. Journalists typed frantically. Wright's attorney was already filing appeal notices that everyone knew would fail. Sophia felt her mother's hand squeeze hers. It's finally over, Victoria whispered. But it wasn't quite over. Not yet. 3 months later, Sophia walked across the stage at Columbia University to thunderous applause. The Board of Trustees had issued a formal apology. Reinstated her position. Offered back pay for the 6 months she'd lost. The student who'd accused her, paid $50,000 by a Wright shell company, had recanted everything in a tearful confession. Dr. Sophia Bennett was officially back. Her first lecture of the new semester was on power dynamics in language. The auditorium was packed, 200 students, plus media covering her return, plus several of Wright's victims who'd become friends during the trial. Subscribe now to see the incredible conclusion of Sophia's journey. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment. Language, Sophia began, is the most powerful weapon we have. It can destroy. It can uplift. It can hide truth or expose lies. For 3 years, a man used language and silence to destroy 47 lives. But language also saved us. 1 conversation in German. 1 whistleblower breaking silence. 1 USB drive full of truth. She paused, looking out at the audience. Today, we learn why speaking truth to power isn't just brave. It's essential. Because silence protects the guilty. And every voice raised in truth makes the world a little more just. In the back row, her mother wiped away tears. Elena Rodriguez smiled. Marcus Chen gave a subtle nod. And Sophia Bennett, no longer hiding, no longer afraid, taught her class about the language of justice. Because she'd learned firsthand that sometimes, the most powerful words you can speak are the ones that expose someone else's lies. Even when those words come from a waitress who wasn't supposed to understand.